Hey all, Siege here, and today I want to talk about what appears to be a fairly formidable power that's made its way into the plains of Eidolon with what was presented during the lead up to as well as TennoCon itself. Now, during the trailer for the new war, we can see the Unum Tower decimated by one of the Sentient's massive starships, which shows quite definitively that the power we're dealing with may be much more than really anything else we've encountered in game. Given that the lore on the Unum is somewhat hidden, it would probably come to a surprise to many that the Unum is not an entity so easily overcome. The Gar legend tells us that in the dying days of the Orkin, with forums and promenades still blood wet with Tenno betrayal, a colossal sentient descended upon ancient Eir, falling from distant stars to deliver upon the Orkin a terrible and final ruin. Tower upon tower fell to its weapons, but one withstood, the Tower of the Unum, some of the pieces of which are still strewn all over the plains, along with some smaller sentience remains as well. And if you ask me, most of what we see in the area are not part of the aforementioned mega sentient, rather a large piece coming out of the water in the distance. It's hard to say how much of it is hidden under the water, but it definitely looks different from the typical barrier generators we see around. So it would appear that this colossal sentient ship, the likes of which many of us have been a guest upon in the past, the nature of our invitation still somewhat shrouded in mystery, mind you, is coming to finally finish the job, and apparently will do so with shocking efficacy. To add to the mystery of the event, the Unum is said to possess significant prophetic abilities, so one would have to question why she was not able to see this catastrophic occurrence before it was too late. After all, the last time the Sentients attempted to destroy her, she was able to formulate a counteroffensive with Gara as her champion, creating a bomb constructed of her own flesh that was able to destroy the sentient and spread its parts amongst the plains. One would assume for this newest encounter, she would basically have the entirety of the Warframe community at her beck and call to act as Gara did, yet it doesn't appear the Tenno were summoned until it was far too late. In truth, the Unum may have ultimately spelled her own doom and provided the very reason, or at least a potentially important reason, for the Sentient's return to this area specifically. Now, in the lead up to the original battle between Gara and the aforementioned Sentient, it was discovered that this enemy had a particular distaste for sunlight and would only roam the area at night. The Unum attempted to outwit her adversary by infusing her own blue kuva into some of the local animals in order to control them and then attempt to figure out where the sentient was hiding. This strategy backfired rather fantastically, as some of the creatures were captured and the sentient figured out that the blue kuva could actually restore its ability to procreate, the very thing the sentients were originally warring against the Orkin for in the first place. And with this piece of information, the next step for the sentient was to attempt an assault upon the tower itself. Now, as we know, that attempt failed. But the point is, maybe the blue kuva has something to do with why the sentients decided to return to this spot specifically and exploit the thing the original sentient was not able to accomplish. What's more interesting to me, at least, though, is that we're seeing this happen at all. Like I mentioned, one would assume the Unum suspected this would happen if she is in fact prophetic and would have had someone in Cetus contact one of us, right? Maybe we didn't get there in time? I mean, there's a lot of stuff apparently going on in the system at this moment. Maybe we were dealing with something else, but if not, that would lend itself to the idea that this new sentient threat is much worse than the last one. Given that the previous massive sentient was not able to overcome the Unum in their first encounter, seeing this new danger just bust through the top of the tower with relative ease should be a very sobering moment. Could the Tenno have stopped it from happening? It's tough to say, but I feel like Warframe overall is going to look very different in the future. Cetus will obviously never be the same, but I wonder what's going to happen to places like Fortuna or even Deimos, which could have catastrophic consequences tied to it. I feel like the fact that they showed some of these areas in the trailer means just that. And it's possible all kinds of different areas in game will get a bit of a makeover. And if the Unum Tower was destroyed this easily, and assuming Ballast still remembers its significance, the heart of Deimos would be like a very obvious and easy target with its relatively low security. One can at least suspect this Tenno weakness will get exploited again at some point. Will there be anyone left willing to even stand with the Tenno? It's quite possible the people of Cetus won't survive this attack, and even if they do, without the tower to provide them with the majority of their needs, either they're going to side with the sentients, or probably not last very long. The flesh of the tower is basically the lifeblood of the town, so without that, what are they going to do? Then you have Fortuna, which may end up even with a worse fate. A lot of it depends on how much of Corpus leadership is left after the dust of the assault is cleared, specifically Nef'anyo, because as we've seen in the past, the Orb Mother itself really isn't very far from the area, and who knows, maybe we'll finally see it attack the town, like what occurred during a bug in some particular lobby, where basically the Orb Mother came into Fortuna and just started messing everything up. And in truth, it's an obvious weakness that's always been there with Fortuna being so close and intertwined with Nef'anyo specifically. So one has to wonder if he sides with them, which we've already seen Alad V apparently do. Can we expect the people of Fortuna to have a different fate? Where will Parvos Granum side? From what we've seen, he doesn't seem to really respect authority, no matter where it comes from, and so it makes me question if he will side with either one of us. I feel like it would make more sense for him to side with the Tenno, but the whole Sisters of Parvos conflict we have going on right now might make that a bit more difficult to make happen, you know? That being said, Parvos does seem like the type which would ally with someone specifically to use them and potentially turn on them once their usefulness had run its course. It's basically what he did with us. So if history holds up, he'll most likely choose either the Sentients or we the Tenno with the sole purpose of betraying us when the moment suits him best. And let's be real, he's just the type of person to be able to achieve that type of thing. Parvos definitely deserves a deep dive at some point because I'm not sure you've all noticed yet, but this basic Corpus citizen seems to be a lot more than meets the eye, if you will. And I feel like if in fact DE isn't writing the story just like as they go and have a clear long-term intention, like a thing already written out, the introduction of a character like Parvos with so many incredible abilities right before the War of the Sentients seems pretty intentional. And in the end, it could be either by his resources as an ally or his defeat as an enemy that the whole new war thing ends up concluding. But I feel like he will play a major role with this whole sentient war before too long. One also has to wonder if we don't end up enlisting help from other, say, non-conventional means in the end. I mean, think about it. If we wanted to know pretty much anything about the old system, the Orkin, the old war, who could we ask that's basically within spitting distance of most of us on our orbiter? Nihil. I mean, we could, right? After all, given everything that's happened in the system, there's really no sides anymore other than these two that are starting to happen. So freeing him in exchange for information might make an ally even out of him. What allegiance does he really have to anyone anyhow? And we do possess a bargaining chip in the keys to his release. So I'm saying maybe we've got a resource we might yet look into. I think this is the best part of what could be coming with the new war, both at its initial release, but also a while into the future. There's so many interesting characters with relatively little information in the lore currently that could be relevant to the new war. I mean, there's people like Nihil, the Entradi, and Parvos who have some stuff, but there's even more obscure characters that could definitely play a role. I mean, someone like Palladino is someone I want to know how she knows all the stuff that she knows, right? Does anybody else get that? I don't know. But the possibilities are really endless. And I see the new war lasting quite a long time. I mean, it took forever to get here in the first place, but with all kinds of moving parts along the way. My concern is if this will satiate only the lore aficionados, or if whatever new systems DE does incorporate will get and keep players engaged on the gameplay front as well. Time will tell, but this is probably as good as it gets as a player in Warframe, the lead up to a big new content release. And yeah, I'm definitely excited. I mean, what we saw at TennoCon was very, very, very promising. I just hope they deliver. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video today and it got you thinking about what the next few years of Warframe storytelling might get into. With an actual objective, the new war against the sentient specifically, the narrative can finally develop in a much more, let's say, linear path, which I feel will be more focused and thus more engaging in the end. At any rate, I hope you all have a wonderful day today, wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk at you all in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.